Alright. So we did cut the one consider for one more land to try to make the Vanishing Verse mana base possibly a little more functional. Whether that's too many lands and not enough card draw, we'll see. I kind of suspect that's the case. Oh, did they fix the Mythic set symbols? I think we're actually Mythic again. Oh, radical. I wonder if there's a changelog anywhere of all the fixes that they do on any given patch. I know for one, there was a very big unannounced balance change to Alchemy and back, which is... this hand doesn't look like I get to keep it. This is literally the same hand deck, but okay. Guess we're just gonna get rid of this here horror. Rahilda is now red on the backside and not colorless. Vanishing Verse now hits it. So I'm playing against Naya. Yowzas. Okay. No black sources at all is an extremely inauspicious beginning to the mana base. I have no answer to this wolf. Okay, one black source. Almost there to kick Path of Peril. Opponent missed a land drop, so all I have to do is successfully find a way to answer this wolf before it kills me. No Stormseeker. No thank you. Okay, so I could Path of Peril here, but I'm probably not supposed to yet. The nice thing about playing against Standard Gruul is without Rahilda, they have a lot fewer playable 2-drop things that start the day-night cycle, which does mean it's a lot harder for them to play a Stormcharge Slasher around Parasitic Grasp. I dig that. Radical. Disdainful Stroke and Vanishing Verse is, I think, pretty stellar hits. So for... oh, that was not the color combination I was supposed to play. I was supposed to play a Shipwreck Marsh so that I could play Path of Peril and hold up Vanishing Verse and Disdainful Stroke. Okay. Well, now I don't get to hold up Vanishing Verse, which is potentially bad if the opponent next turn decides to play a Reckless Stormseeker. So we're going to hope they don't do that. They did that. So I guess I die if the opponent has Veil here? Nope. I can top deck out of it. Lovely. Okay. Well, let's see about playing around Veil. Possibly I was supposed to try to Fading Hope the Stormcharge Slasher. Make... not Veil. What is it? What's the name of the hexproof counter spell? But possibly I was supposed to stop it from flipping to night. I'm uncertain on that. Okay, Snakeskin Veil was actually the name. Alright. I guess maybe they have two. Nope. Okay. Successfully played around everything. They should have let that happen, just recast the thing? Yeah, I agree. But they might not have known they were drawing a land yet. Oh, that definitely punished me. Oh, but the opponent played 2 spells, so... not as punished as I could have been. Memory Deluge. Take Bloodchief's Thirst and a land. Can't Bloodchief's Thirst here. Brutal Cathar hits me for 3. Opponents used up 2 Stormseekers. Most of the other haste threats they have die to Disdainful Stroke. They could have also just top-decked another Snakeskin Veil. Oh, an Inscription of Abundance. Yeah, okay. Well, that was an interesting game. We simultaneously couldn't cast our spells and flood it out, which is like the worst possible thing we could have happen in terms of, that seems like a very bad indication, but okay. I think that well, no, they had already made the land drop, hadn't they? Yeah, fighting over the bounce is interesting there. I guess they probably suspected we had a counterspell for it. So I want Parasitic Grasps, I want Edgar, I want Iymrith. I don't know if I want Fading Hope. I probably want Disdainful Stroke, I probably want removal spells, I probably don't super want Meathook Massacre. I probably want Leer. If we get to a position where I'm actually interested in boarding out Leer, then I probably just shouldn't have Leer in this deck. Leer getting back Vanishing Verse is kind of cool, I guess. Yeah, I am from Vancouver, Washington. Probably not Sorin, I don't think. Maybe not Bloodchief's Thirst then, I guess? Does Hullbreaker come out? Hullbreaker's usually pretty good against green decks. I don't know if my removal is functional enough to give me the time necessary to get to it, but in that game, for example, I think it would have won the game. So I feel like that says something. This is why I hate playing Fading Hope. You get hands with no card advantage and 2 Fading Hopes, and you don't really have a game plan for how you're going to recoup the card disadvantage of playing Fading Hope. I mean, the idea is Leer, but if you don't draw Leer, then I think I gotta keep it. It's better than mulliganing to 6. Okay, pack leader, sure. I don't think I want to Jwari Disruption things because I have this Path of Peril. But I possibly was supposed to play a black source so that I could Path of Peril on 3? Maybe? I don't know if that's true or not. It's probably not super true. I don't need to Path of Peril on 3. I could wait to Path of Peril on 5 if needs be. Kessig Naturalist. Okay. Well, I definitely bounce that during my turn so it doesn't turn into night. Vanishing Verse is so tempting a card that I would absolutely love to have. A card I probably need to keep. Vents are made. Thanks for the follow. Glad you're enjoying the stream. Land drop into Kessig Naturalist. Okay. What am I doing on my next turn? Am I letting it turn into night? I don't want a Fading Hope next turn. So I guess I Fading Hope the Naturalist and let it turn to night? Okay. Getting to counter a Snakeskin Veil with Fading Hope is kind of a win for me, I think. So I could Vanishing Verse a pack leader to stop it from turning to night. I could Memory Deluge, but I'm in trouble if they resolve Helena and Elena. The Path of Peril here just not being good is kind of a significant problem. I have to take Hive. The rest of this I don't know what to do. I'm not going to have an untapped land next turn. I'm going to have to play Hive tapped, which means I'm probably Vanishing Versing, holding up Disdainful Stroke. I guess that makes Leer what I'm supposed to be doing here. Leer and Path of Peril is at least sort of a combo. Okay, Stormseeker's not the worst thing that could happen here. My life would be a lot easier with an untapped source, so I probably just die to Snakeskin Veil then. I'm kind of surprised to see a deck running like this many Snakeskin Veils and some main. Would not have anticipated that beating control decks was the primary goal. Most of the reason that I'm here playing a control deck is because I thought it was going to be extremely difficult to do. But, alright, I do lose to a Snakeskin Veil here. Okay. Yep. If an aggro deck wants to beat control, they can. I'm not really convinced that's the correct thing for aggro to be doing at the moment at all. Helena plays 4 Veil just because of Helena. It sticks, it beats aggro and control. I don't know if I buy that it beats green midrange. The biggest weakness of those green-red decks is that they have historically been extremely bad against mono-green. And I guess that's why you splash white for the Brutal Cathars? Can their mana base really do that, though? I suppose the problem is that you don't have good 2-drops. That was the problem before, and it's probably the problem going forward. You could try to rely super heavily on Brutal Cathar. I guess if mirrors get to the point where they're all about Brutal Cathar, then that makes sense. Snakeskin Veil is useful against that. And Helena should beat control. I don't believe that Helena's particularly good against control. It's difficult to resolve expensive things against control. Alright. We keep having these opening hands that I'm not, like, actually excited about. Though, to be fair, I suppose we never drew any of the cards that I actually thought were good against aggro, which are the mid-range creatures, come to think of it. We just keep having these Leer hands that we don't actually have Leer with. Maybe I'm just supposed to cut the Fading Hopes and Leer. Maybe that's not supposed to be the plan at all. Okay, opponent foretold 2 cards that in white-black snow are probably... Alright, what does this card do? Probably Doomscars. As long as Grandmaster of Flowers has 7 or more loyalty counters on him, he's a 7/7 Dragon God creature with indestructible and flying, and then go search for a bunch of Monk of the Open Hands. I'm assuming I'm just supposed to counter that, because otherwise it's kind of annoying that it makes a bunch of creatures. Alright, well, my opponent's doing nothing, so let's just keep making land drops. Yeah, could be Starnheim Unleashed. It's not impossible, but it's a lot less typical. Well, it's a good thing we're drawing lands, because I don't have any card advantage, so doing nothing right now would be a problem. Okay, Celestus is at least pretty cool. We get to get rid of these fading hopes that I don't really want right now. I have been main deck disenchanted. Okay. Fair. Yeah, I suspect there's probably a Poison the Cup in here. Most likely. Okay, we have a Faithbound Judge, I suppose. Faithbound Judge has a counter on it. Go blank main deck. Sure. And it takes out Meathook Massacre and a land. Opponent definitely doesn't want to lose Mirror Match's main board. Well, I'm super low on resources, unfortunately. Yep, there's a Poison the Cup. Alright, we're going to bounce Faithbound Judge. And we're going to bounce Hullbreaker Horror. Do I play Edgar? I guess I play Edgar? Doesn't really synergize with Hullbreaker Horror, but it is a clock that the opponent's going to have to deal with. I'm probably going to get totally blown out by another main deck go blank. Lolth. Okay, well, I have to disenchant that, or Disdainful Stroke that. I'm definitely not playing Disenchant. Okay, Lear, I guess, has Fading Hope backup right? No, wait, hold on. I don't have any spells in the graveyard except for Fading Hope, so playing Lear kind of sucks. Dawnbringer Cleric. Okay. My Fading Hope presumably is exiled? My Fading Hope is exiled. Okay. Got me. So we play Hullbreaker Horror. And go to combat. And attack with both of these. Faithbound Judge, jump block, jump block. I'm kind of tempted to play Lear here. I think I should, because it actually gives me an instant speed spell against a board wipe. Disdainful Stroke doesn't look like much, but it does bounce Horror. Or actually, rather, it counters Doomscar straight up, doesn't it? Yeah, okay. Well, this is a cute plan. They don't actually have more white sources, so am I sure I want to target Doomscar? Yes. I would like to return Lear to my hand. Having a Fading Hope in the yard to protect Lear wasn't enough reason to play it. Well, what's the point of playing Lear and then Fading Hoping the Lear if the cost was I don't play a Hullbreaker Horror at the end of... Okay. They could also just have an untapped white source in hand. If the cost was that I don't get to play Hullbreaker Horror at the end of their turn. Because I think that's what I wanted to do. I totally can counter with Lear. As long as there's a Horror in play. But, yeah, I can't counter the second Doomscar. I kind of feel like I should play out the other Edgar here and the Celestus. Doesn't feel like that's a huge synergy with the Coffin, because I'm eventually going to have to sack an Edgar. Wait. No, if I sack one to Legendary Rule, it just turns into a Coffin, doesn't it? So I just get to keep bouncing them back and forth. So actually 2 Edgars super does synergize. Radical. But attacking with Edgar and a Faithbound Judge is bad. Okay. Let's turn it to night. I will draw a card. I will get rid of Shipwreck Marsh. Play the Hive. I guess if the opponent trades Faithbound Judge with Edgar, I'm probably okay with that. Yeah, I think I'm just supposed to be okay with that. Then I wind up choosing one of these to keep. So we keep the one with no counters on it? Or maybe I was supposed to keep the one with counters on it, actually. I guess that's not that straightforward. Third Doomscar. Very well. Third to Faithbound Judge. Okay. Draw a card, discard a card. Okay, so we have enough mana to activate the Celestus, do some looting, get rid of lands, activate Hive, swing with Hive, exile Faithbound Judge. Doesn't help too much because they do have another Faithbound Judge. Land, and we're on a clock. How many counters? 3? And 1 at the beginning of every upkeep. Loot away a land. Animate Hive. Swing with Hive. Exile. Opponent has 1, 2, 3 snow permanents currently. Can get a 4th. So I think we exile Grandmaster of Flowers at the moment. I don't think we play this land. Opponent hits our Hive. They probably should have done that after the loot with Celestus, so that we had a chance to draw a basic, instead of getting to thin our deck here. Vanishing Verse answers Sinner's Judgment, if we find one. And find a land, okay. They find a Grandmaster. They go and snag a 1-drop, presumably? Or stop one of my 1/1s from attacking into Faithbound Judge, I guess. Okay. Animate Celestus. Use it. Disdainful Stroke is something, I suppose. Get rid of Deserted Beach. Go to combat. Swing at opponent's face. Presumably they block Edgar. It comes back transformed. Over to Night. Draw a card. Memory Deluge helps. Okay, get rid of Jwari Disruption. So that digs us pretty deep towards Vanishing Verse for the Sinner's Judgment. Yep, some of my stuff can't attack. Very well. Meathook Massacre for 1. Plays around Disdainful Stroke quite nicely. Did we switch to a life gain deck? Edgar certainly does a lot of life gain, doesn't it? I guess I've also probably gained a bunch of life off Celestus, too, for that matter. Memory Deluge. Opponent's Scry's 1. Not the best impression of a Memory Deluge. We hit nothing that answers that judgment, but we will happily take the land. More land, okay. We're gonna Memory Deluge. Looks 7 for Vanishing Verse. And somehow whiff on Vanishing Verse in the top. We have 4 Vanishing Verse that didn't show up in the top, I think, like, 50 cards of our deck is what just occurred, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, well, I don't think I've played a land drop for the turn, which means that I still don't actually have a way to win this game at all. Then if it has 3 or more, enchanted player loses the game, attached to me. I can play... Okay, well, no, hold on. If it turns to day on the opponent's turn, then this lose the game trigger is still on the stack. I can turn it to day on my turn, but I don't have any mana. Okay. Maybe we don't actually have Vanishing Verse. What do I feel that is a good stuff is still great after bans? So I can only give the reason that I don't think Is It Good stuff is good. And that isn't necessarily saying that it isn't, but it's very easy to view a control deck as being good or bad because of its win cons, when the vast majority of the time, the win cons are the least relevant part of whether a control deck is good or bad in the metagame. More than anything else, the viability of a control deck is dependent on how its removal spells line up against the threats in the metagame. And Izzet's removal spells were already only fine. They did the job. And that was with Divide by Zero being excellent and covering a lot of weaknesses all at the same time. I think that a Izzet Dragons list can probably still be a reasonable tempo deck that rides the gap between aggression and disruption. I do not think there is an Izzet control deck right now. I don't think that is the case. Alright, don't want Fading Hope. Don't want Parasitic Grasp. Want Sorin. Could take or leave Iymrith, probably. Want Disdainful Stroke. Want Go Blank, probably. Want Edgar, probably. Don't want Path of Peril. Don't want Meathook Massacre. Don't want Bloodchief's Thirst. Take Infernal Grasp? Probably don't want Infernal Grasp. Take Iymrith, I guess. Alright, well, let's try being a mid-range list. How do they win? They have an enchantment that says that if it gets 3 counters on it, or it gets a counter every upkeep, and if it gets 3 counters, they win. More or less. Which is what happened. I was looking for a Vanishing Verse to answer it, but we didn't have any of the 4 Vanishing Verse in our deck. I'm pretty increasingly convinced that I just don't want to play Lear, I think. Alright, opponent, do you have more main deck disenchant? Not this time. Alright. Am I going to get Mind Rot? No. Cool. Alright, take action. I'm willing to get rid of Disdainful Stroke in the interest of just making land drops and drawing cards. I think that's the important thing at the moment. In pursuit of that, I am willing to just hold on to Memory Deluge. I don't want to play Sorin and Uptick and give them an opportunity to use removal spells there. Lear's good at justifying Fading Hope in your deck. Yeah, and all these times that I keep drawing Fading Hope and no Lear has me really not super excited about Fading Hope either. Okay, Grandmaster, probably going to be fine. I will take Edgar because I think I need a threat here. No, I mean I could just take Sorin and down ticket. Yeah, let's just take Sorin and down ticket and grab some lands. They get a Monk to hand. Usually these decks play like one copy of Monk of the Open Hand. Nope, not even one copy of Monk of the Open Hand. Alright. Sure, that's fair too. Alright, let's make sure not to leave our mana in a way that is vulnerable to disenchant. Fading Hope is one of the ways to not die to aggro if you have a way to win the game that doesn't care about card advantage. And Leer is a way to win the game against aggro that doesn't care about card advantage. But part of the reason Leer was allowed to not care about card advantage was the strength borrowed from Divide by Zero. So I'm not sure if Leer actually does enough to make that job functional. Alright, let's uptick in the interest. Yeah, I'll take a go blank, I guess. Do I want to try to flip it today? Probably not. Alright, well, we're just going to go blank the opponent then. That's card advantage. Why not? 7 counters for that to become annoying. Now, admittedly, Vanishing Verse still answers Grandmaster of Flowers, so we're not without answers. Didn't do the Celestus correctly this time. Not a big deal, though. We do have 4 copies of Vanishing Verse. I swear those are in the deck. I promise they're in the deck. Promise me they're in the deck. Yeah, Dawnbringer Cleric does exile Memory Deluge. You gots me. My 2/3 can't block her attack. Yup. My Sorin is dead and I can't Disdainful Stroke that. Yup. Okay. There's a Vanishing Verse and a land drop. Turns today. We get to get rid of the Celestus. We get to play a land drop. We get to pass the turn. Okay. So our opponent transforms Grandmaster of Flowers. We get to get rid of a land drop. And they get to attack us for 7 here. But we can probably live with that. Lolth. I'm probably supposed to Disdainful Stroke that and Vanishing Verse the Grandmaster of Flowers this turn, which is a little disappointing compared to Memory Deluge, but here we are. Okay, Hive the Eye Tyrant, not terrible. We've drawn 2 of our basics already, I believe, which means we've only got 1 left in the deck if they fail to ruin us. I would like to cast this Memory Deluge before the Horror, so that we have more protection for it. Okay. Sure. I can't draw into anything that interacts without Lolth, so the Lolth resolves before I commit to Memory Deluge. Want to get some spiders. So I could play Horror and ambush the Dawnbringer Cleric here. Memory Deluge at sorcery speed, bounce a spider. And if I hit something castable, bounce Faithbound Judge. I don't think I should do that though, because I think my position here is pretty reasonable. And I think Memory Deluging is the way that I can make it the most safe. I think I'm happy with Sorin and Vanishing Verse. Do I Vanishing Verse the Lolth? Do I Hullbreaker Horror and then Vanishing Verse the Lolth? I could Vanishing Verse the Faithbound Judge, bounce a token, attack Lolth, chump block token. Oh, I've also got Hive. Does Hive affect anything? I can Vanishing Verse, Faithbound Judge, animate Hive, attack Lolth with both. Yeah, that's probably what I want to do. I think. Exile a Lolth. So they could double block my Hive here if they want to. I think that goes badly for them. They did just give us 2 life for no reason. I think they didn't realize that the vampire was able to block again after so many turns of attacking with stuff when it couldn't block. Grandmaster of Flowers. I can live with that. Alright. I think I have succeeded at card advantage now. Oh, he says and then draws Memory Deluge. Extremely succeeding at card advantage. Let's keep making 2/3s. Alright. I'm beginning to feel more like a mid-range deck than a control deck, to be entirely honest. I foretold something. That something is a board wipe. Alright. No, my poor Celestus. Memory Deluge and Jacob Halkin seem like cool things to hit off a Memory Deluge. We're going to uptick this Sorin and hope to hit a land. We hit an Edgar. I'll live. So we play the Edgar. Play a Jacob. We got this here Hullbreaker Horror, and at very few points in this game has it been the correct option. And you're gone. Cave of the Frost Dragon. Swing at Sorin. Sure. What's the timing on this? At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library face down. Once during each turn, you may... Okay, so I can Hullbreaker Horror on my turn if I want to. Soul Shatter, back up Jacob Halkin. Jacob Halkin, exile Horror, pay 6, cast Horror for free, play Hall, pass the turn with Soul Shatter up is probably the safest option now. Okay, land for the opponent. Land... Timing on this? Yes. I think I want that to resolve. I want them to animate the cave. And then we're going to Soul Shatter and bounce the Master so that the cave dies. I should have let them attack with the cave first so they couldn't have Field of Ruined my Hall. Probably not going to make a difference. Oh, hey, cool. 0-mana Leer. Radical. Gonna play this 0-mana Leer? No, we're done. No 0-mana Leer? Edgar makes Lolth an interesting alternative to Sorin. I mean, Sorin being 4 mana is a pretty big difference against aggro, but maybe 2 chump blockers is meaningful. We could try that. Is Lolth better than Iymrith? Maybe? Maybe. Aloisi! Thanks for the sub. I appreciate the support. I'm happy you're enjoying the content. No changes, I don't think. I think we're still pretty happy to just be on plan maximum mid-range. Oh, alright, maximum mid-range successful. Radical. So, if we're cutting Lear and cutting the Fading Hopes from the main board, it occurs to me that I probably should have cut the Fading Hopes from the sideboard, but I don't know. Well, we'll see how that goes. Oh, this hand has a plan. It's a bad hand, but I'm going to keep it, because maybe we just turn 4 Meathook Massacre for 2 against a board full of 2/2s and win the game. You can't tell me that's not possible. You are free to tell me it's a bad idea, and that I shouldn't have kept it. Yeah, not sure how to feel against mono green. Please play a ranger class, please play a ranger class. Pack Song Pup is also fine. Can the opponent play any werewolf or wolf on turn 3 that doesn't die to Parasitic Grasp? I mean, they could definitely play a Old Growth Troll that doesn't die to Parasitic Grasp. But then that doesn't really fly with them playing Pack Song Pup, does it? I feel like I can just pass here. If they play another Pack Song Pup, then that kind of just lets me chill and play Meathook Massacre for 2. I guess I could get kind of made sad if... Oh. I was going to say I could be kind of sad if my opponent played a Snakeskin Veil here. But I could Path of Peril. Or I could save Path of Peril for after Lolth. I think I kind of want to save Path of Peril for after Lolth. Oh, hey, cool. Meathook Massacre worked and we're back up to 20. I feel very confident in this game suddenly. If we don't play Lear, Hull feels even worse as it will lack its best engine, but perhaps still good enough. I'm not even sure that Lear is like good with Hullbreaker Horror if it doesn't have Divide by Zero. I think Hullbreaker Horror, we're just going to have to find out if that's good enough on its own. But yeah, I agree that I'm not entirely convinced Hullbreaker Horror is a good card anymore. Sorin Reef turns into a 4/4 on attack? Yes. Werewolf Pack Leader? Sure. Well, I've got a lot of removal for those cards. Could, like, try to kick Path of Peril. Probably not actually what I want to do with my time. Probably just going to Parasitic Grasp and Vanishing Verse my opponent's stuff on their turn? Playing Alchemy? Nope, this is Standard. There's a PTQ coming up this weekend that I want to explore the format prior to. So I'm assuming we Vanishing Verse that Glorious Sunrise, because card advantage sounds awful, and I don't want my opponent to have it. And priority there, like they have Snakeskin Veil. Do I let them attack with Pack Leader and draw a card? Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. I don't think Parasitic Grasping here into Snakeskin Veil is good for me at all. I think I'm supposed to let them attack beforehand. Interesting attack. Because if I try to Parasitic Grasp the Pack Leader and they Snakeskin Veil it, then the Ordinary Ooze winds up pumping it. Okay, so what do you do if I just double block Pack Leader opponent? Cool with that? Okay. Will you play the PTQ? I thought you already had a slot for all the PTs. I do and will not. But I figured that that's the kind of thing that people are most interested in watching content relative to. So if anybody does want to play in the PTQ, I mean, I figure this is kind of just a hunch on my part, but I presume that by and large, people watching me are also probably interested in playing competitive events, and therefore are most interested in watching content that is relevant to those competitive events. But I am just kind of guessing that. I would call it an educated guess, though. Edgar and Lolth should be pretty good together, I think. It seems like cards that have some inherent synergy. More oozes. Oh no. Can't really attack into this Edgar, or else things actually get worse for them, I feel like. Surely this can't be correct, right? You put a counter on my Lolth, and my Edgar starts spitting out 1/1s, and my Lolth gets to downtick now? Spit out spiders? Isn't that just bad for you, opponent? It's like 75% Sox. True. But luckily it doesn't matter what I choose to do on stream. Sox kind of just happens automatically. I don't know, it's an interesting question. On the other hand, Divide by Zero is one of the best answers for Hull. Sort of. Hullbreaker Horror really wasn't an people think that the can't be countered aspect of Hullbreaker Horror is like super critical and makes it a control breaker, but that's actually not true. It's just not a very relevant card in control mirrors most of the time, because it's so expensive and so easy to answer with low-cost spells that it just doesn't tend to decide that many games. Or at least historically, games have been decided more by card advantage, and some games will get decided by, oh, I can't answer Hullbreaker, but not typically. So, Divide by Zero being an answer to Hullbreaker Horror, yes, is a factor in favor of Hullbreaker Horror not having been great. And that going away does make Hullbreaker kind of better in mirrors, but it still gets Vanishing Verse, it still gets Infernal Grasped. All of those things still kind of suck against it, and you don't tend to have cheap spells that are worth playing in the mirror, like Fading Hope, to protect it. And I think that's still going to be the case, but the card continues to still be super good against aggro, mostly because a 7/8 body is good against most aggro decks. The fact that it has other text is kind of just extra, not inherently what is strong about it. I do like my opponent flooding at the same rate as me, because I got planeswalkers that make my flooding not actually real flooding. That's a lot of counters. I think I'm probably supposed to take out one of the uses here. So I think I go blockity, blockity, blockity. Am I willing to throw away an extra spider to play around Snakeskin Veil? I think so. Which probably makes these not ideal blocks, but yeah. Not my job to figure out good blocks. That's like probably the opponent's job or something. Triggers! Wee! I'm definitely getting the impression that Edgar and Lolth are best friends. This is fun. Sculptor of Winter, sure. I think you probably want to stop attacking with that ooze, opponent. I don't think it's helping you. Alright. Considering our graveyard, I'm a lot happier with this Lolth than I would have been with a Leer. Memory Deluge is fun. Draw a card, lose some life. Sure. Okay, no attack. I'd kind of like a way to sacrifice this Edgar, if I'm being honest. You super can't attack into the Edgar, opponent. That makes your life so bad. I don't see how this attack is beneficial, opponent, but okay. Oh, I super want a Sorin and a Vanishing Verse. Yeah, that sounds delightful. I kind of don't want to kill this Orin Reef, because, like, my opponent's being so generous with how often they attack with it that... Do I just want to let them keep doing that? Probably not. I probably want to get around to attacking my opponent at some point, because we're kind of close to lethal in the next 2 turns. Actually, do I have lethal here? 1 token, 3 tokens, 4 tokens, plus... I think I actually have lethal here. Alright, let's double check the math on this. Put the opponent to 6. Put 5 tokens in play. Put a 6th token in play. Path of Peril. That should be lethal, right? I don't know if that was correct to go for, but it made me happy to go for it. Is it just me, or does anyone else think Chris has a very relaxing voice? Well, I'm happy you think so. Okay, so we definitely want more Edgars. Probably want... Is Iymrith good against green? Or is it too slow? I don't know. Let's play a Fading Hope. Oh golly gosh, what am I supposed to cut against green? Probably Sorin? Do we want Iymriths? Do we want Memory Deluge? Do we want Path of Peril? Do we want Meathook Massacre? Do I want Bloodchief's Thirsts? Do I want Disdainful Strokes? Do I want the other Iymrith? Do I want the other Bloodchief's Thirst? Do I want the other Parasitic Grasps? Do I want the Infernal Grasp? Why are all my cards kind of decent against green? Am I supposed to consider lowering my curve with Hullbreaker Horror for Iymriths? Maybe? Let's not play Fading Hope. That seems like it's not actually a removal spell. Parasitic Grasp, Parasitic Grasp, Parasitic Grasp. It does hit Pack Leader. Mono Green doesn't really have as many targets for Parasitic Grasp as Gruul does, so I don't actually think I'm bringing in the Parasitic Grasp. I think I bring in the Infernal Grasp, though, probably. Do I bring in the other one? Do I cut a Parasitic Grasp for an Infernal Grasp against Mono Green? Probably, I think. I do have to say that Bloodchief's Thirst probably provides an interesting way to remove a 2-drop and hold up a 2-drop removal spell. Maybe that's supposed to be what we're doing? Okay. This has a plan. The plan is, like, turn 3 Celestus, Bloodchief's Thirst, I guess? I wonder if I'm supposed to play the island first there to rip... No, because I have to play Deserted Beach first to hold up Vanishing Verse on 2. I could try to Jwari Disruption a 3-drop here. If I Jwari Disruption a 3-drop, then on my turn, I get to go Celestus Bloodchief's Thirst on Pack Leader, and that's like a huge blowout. Or I could just accept Bloodchief's Thirsting the Pack Leader here, Because if my opponent plays like 2-drop... Yeah, I can't risk my opponent playing a 2-drop and leaving up Snakeskin Veil. I get blown out too hard if they do that. I don't think I can try to go for the Celestus value. Cemetery Prowler, but no guarantee they would have done that if I had left up 2 mana. Sorcery and not creature. That's actually very surprising. Okay, so having drawn Vanishing Verse, I think my line is that I exile the Cemetery Prowler, play the Jwari Disruption, and then get to play Edgar next turn. Oran Reef Ooze. I'm okay with that. A black source gives us access to Path of Peril. Actually, we don't need 2 black sources to kick Path of Peril. That's kind of interesting. I've never really considered that aspect of the card before. Huh. They're likely afraid of Leer? Oh, yeah, that does kind of make sense that they would go after our graveyard instead as a result. Lucky for me, since I'm not playing Leer anymore. Largely irrelevant. I assume you mean in regards to the Path of Peril mana cost Pt.1? Which, yeah, largely irrelevant, but I've definitely been playing 3-color decks and not had one of my 3 colors by the time I made 6 land drops before. It's happened. More often than I would like. Given that my opponent didn't do anything on 4, I think that I feel pretty comfortable just Memory Deluging here, rather than like going Celestus, hold up Soul Shatter. Do you think playing black-white doesn't offer enough card advantage? I don't know enough about playing black-white, but I can say with complete confidence that it doesn't offer enough Disdainful Stroke. But it might be that you could just play plain black-white and then splash Disdainful Strokes off treasures, and maybe that's actually a better deck than this. I don't know. I don't really know how to build black-white sacrifice. I do know how to build control. Even if this is almost more mid-range than control, in all honesty. So I could play lands, I guess, or I could just play more removal. I don't need lands if I have removal. Or at least that's the operating theory. How does black-white typically do... I guess we don't really even know what an Is It Dragons deck looks like in this meta, but I'm curious how black-white functions against Gruul or mono-green versus and versus Is It Dragons. My impression of white-black... am I okay with that? I guess I don't need to let them resolve this Blizzard Brawl. I don't care if my Edgar dies, but I can just leave my Edgar sitting around. But my impression from Alchemy, from the mono-green / Gruul versus white-black matchup, was that white-black in Alchemy was actually way less favored than I thought it was, to the point that I almost thought mono-green might be favored, or Gruul might be favored, rather. And I wonder if that is also kind of true in Standard. And people kind of overrated black-white against the green decks. Can I attack here? I don't need to attack here. I can probably attack here safely, though. The mono-black snow decks, which white-black basically is, do great against creature decks. There's just enough life gain to make killing them just hard. So that was my original impression. And at least in Alchemy, what I was finding was that you just had enough trample with mono-green that it didn't really matter. punch spell that hits planeswalkers. Alright, I'm not actually willing to use a Vanishing Verse here when my opponent presumably has Snakeskin Veil, and no incentive to use it. Alright, opponent, I'm willing to race now. That's the world we live in. Can't log into the game. It says unable to connect. Is it possible to repair the game? So there was an update today that might be related to. I know I've seen advice on what to do in similar scenarios like that when the game decides to get upset when it can't update itself. There's some kind of log somewhere that you're supposed to try deleting, I believe. But I'm not sure what that is or where that is. Ooh. We didn't do anything with Pack Song Pup, huh? I assume I'm supposed to cast Tiny Memory Deluge and then Soul Shatter here. Okay, guess I'm taking Jwari Disruption to land. I regret not casting bigger Memory Deluge. That would have gotten real spells, maybe? Howdy, senor. Pack Song Pup. Oh, right. Pack Leader's actually a 2-drop. I always forget that, because it doesn't seem like a 2-drop. Oh well. We have a Disdainful Stroke, so we can counter a hasty threat. Boop, boop, boop. Boning down to 4. I feel like we are somewhat in the lead here. How many Snakeskin Veils do you think my opponent has here that they're on 5 mana, not making land drops, and have 3 cards in hand that they're not casting? Let's do a quick Google. There's supposed to be... Did you get an error code when you were unable to connect? Oh, cool, we won. Not excited about this, so hopefully it's the mirror and I get some use out of these Disdainful Strokes. White, black. No. No, I'm gonna get just totally run over here, huh? This is a bad sign, because I doubt my opponent's going to play something that I can Disdainful Stroke this turn. They might not play a 3-drop. I can hope. No creature, no creature, no creature. Spellbinder. Wow, that's bad for me. Okay, well. I think I'm dead here. They should take Vanishing Verse, because answering Luminarch Aspirant's the most important thing I can do here. That's like the card I cared about the least, I think, so that's cool. Alright, opponent, what you got? Mardu aggro with Luminarch Aspirants. That's ambitious. Okay. I wonder if I should have taken that damage to hold up Disdainful Stroke. Nah, because even if I Disdainful Stroke here, I don't have a 4th land, so I don't really have a functional plan for how I would use Vanishing Verse next turn effectively. Now, we did draw into a way to do that. That's something. So I think I'm supposed to Memory Deluge here, looking for a black source and a board wipe, probably. Intrepid Adversary. That's not exciting for me, but if they want to dump all their mana into it, then at least I get to Soul Shatter the Spellbinder. I can Soul Shatter Intrepid Adversary. I wonder if I was supposed to let them attack to make them draw a card instead of getting a token with a Wedding Announcement. That probably was a lot better for me, actually. think I messed that up. Okay. Am I supposed to Soul Shatter here and stop Intrepid Adversary? No, because I let the Luminarch Aspirant resolve, so I've gotten that choice taken away from me. If I wanted to kill the Intrepid Adversary, I needed to Soul Shatter before the Luminarch Aspirant resolved. So now I'm pretty much entirely on plan Memory Deluge, hit untapped Black Source, and a Meathook Massacre. And that's kind of it for functional plan. But we did succeed, so it is indeed a functional plan. Okay. Okay. Path worked with any untap land, but we wouldn't gain enough life to survive the Hive, so it had to be Meathook Massacre. My poor Memory Deluge. Gone before its time. Ooh, Spider's interesting, but dies to removal. So don't think that I can take the Spider line. On the other hand, if they can play a creature and then a Hive, any creature of any CMC keeps the Hive alive through Soul Shatter, so that's not stellar. Still, I think we roll with this. Mr. QO. Or maybe just MRQO. I don't want to presume. Thanks for following. Glad you're enjoying the stream. Land. That makes it a lot easier for them to play a creature and then animate. Yeah, that was what I could play around with Lolth. So unfortunately I die now. Oh, yeah, I still die because Wedding Festival makes it a 4/4. Dang. Oh, or the opponent could miss with perfect information that they have lethal. That is also super excellent. I would like to Soul Shatter before my opponent has a Meathook Massacre in play. This is why you don't concede. Sometimes you just don't die. Alright, still dead to removal spells. That hasn't changed. Silver Quill Silencer with perfect information about my hand. That's adorable. Alright, well, I'm not getting a lot of use out of these Disdainful Strokes, am I? Interesting that this interface considers Silver Quill Silencer to be a 4/3 currently while it's on the stack and this is being chosen. I wonder if that's how the actual rules work. That it is officially on the battlefield being affected while that's happening. So if I Bloodchief's Thirst, I go to 2 life and they draw a card. Not the best. Could play Celestus and then what? 1 mana short of making it night and gaining a life if we play the Celestus here. There's not a lot of downside to zeroing Lolth, other than that I can't cast Bloodchief's Thirst if I zero Lolth. I could Bloodchief's Thirst, let them draw a card, kill the Silencer, go to 2 and then 0 Lolth. Or I could just ignore the Bloodchief's Thirst entirely. We die if we Thirst at 3. So if I do it after Lolth's ability, we would die. But I could do it before Lolth's ability and then gain 1 life because of Meathook Massacre. Oh, yeah, you're right. They have a Meathook Massacre. Alright, so that's not an option at all. No, good point, good point. I totally missed it. Vanishing Verse is good. White Source is also plenty good. Draw a card and lose a life. Parasitic Grasp is actually super great. I love it. That's a human. I gain some life. Alright. 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 I feel vaguely stabilized. No attacks, thank you. Opponent animates Hive. Do I let the Hive attack? No, I got a Memory Deluge. I don't want to get exiled. I'm probably supposed to kill the Hive. Yay! Well, that went surprisingly effectively. Vaguely Stabilized is a good deck name for when you start brewing Neon Dynasty Standard. Yeah, I believe that. Chris, in your day job, are you a nightclub singer? Basically, although they keep me in the back room away from all the customers while I do it. Alright, definitely playing Parasitic Grasp. Probably playing Edgar, probably playing Sorin. Probably playing Bloodchief's Thirst. Probably cutting Horrors. Wow, we turn into such a neat mid-range deck post-board. This is so silly. Everything is effective when opponent has lethal with perfect information and doesn't take it. I mean, it's easy to miss that you have the lethal there because of the Anthem. It's very understandable to forget that your creature that you are used to animating as a 3/3 actually deals 4 damage. I get being in that spot. I've been in that spot before. I nearly just killed myself to a Meathook Massacre because thinking about how different permanents interact with one another is hard. I'm kind of tempted by this Iymrith, but I don't really see any card that I'm willing to cut to play it. If you don't want horrors here, you probably shouldn't be main decking them. Well, white is the color that has easier answers to horror, to be honest. And it's the color that has more evasive threats that, you know, fly and have menace. Green decks are the ones that I actually want horror against. We really are starting to turn this into white-black splash stroke. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Probably not that hand. Probably this hand? What was that we were saying about white-black splash stroke? Did we mean to say blue-black splash stroke? It's entirely possible I should have more white in my mana base than this, and less blue. I mean, I guess I have Memory Deluge, which does necessitate a lot of blue. Silverquill Silencer. You think the name Parasitic Grasp? They have no information. Parasitic Grasp! No! Opponent's been blown out by it one too many times, which is to say, precisely one time. Would not like that Spellbinder to resolve opponent, thank you very kindly. Vanishing Verse. No! I knew we needed white lands in this deck for a reason. I could just let my opponent draw a card. I could also just let my Sorin down tick and try to answer Silverquill Silencer that way. But what if my opponent just plays a Spellbinder, huh? I mean, I guess I have Memory Deluge in that case. Yeah, well, you win, opponent. I lose 3 life, you draw a card, I gain 3 life. I'll give them a nice. They do. Oh, right, we did know that was Mardu for some reason. Down tick Sorin, see how much life Sorin can gain. I would really like my Vanishing Verse to do literally anything. I'm getting real out card advantaged here somehow. That's sort of surprising. Alright, I think I'm on plan Memory Deluge here. Probably. Should I have done that at sorcery speed? Probably. Will I eventually learn how day and night works? Probably not. I'm sure taking extra damage against an aggro deck, not likely to matter. Like to make another Sorin? Yeah, down-ticking, chump blocking. I felt like Memory Deluge hitting the next land in all likelihood was probably better, because I can try to get to the point where... I think I have to Memory Deluge in response here. Huh. Alright, I'm pretty sure I super love Edgar and Bloodchief's Thirst. That seems kind of radical. They probably don't have a ton of removal post board. That's true. Ooh, Meathook Massacre. La-di-da. Alright. We play Edgar. It's immune to Vanishing Verse. We play Bloodchief's Thirst on Silverquill Silencer. That answer, I like. Turns back to day because we played 2 spells. Graveyard Trespasser not big enough to get through Edgar. Okay, Kaya's a good answer to Edgar. That's sort of distressing. And this doesn't feel fair. They exiled my Memory Deluge. Opponent, that's much too good. It's really completely unfair. Huh. I don't know if I can handle that, to be entirely honest. I think I got a plan to Vanishing Verse the Graveyard Trespasser here. And the reason that I want to do that is I don't know that I can super easily beat if my opponent plays a creature and then upticks Kaya on it. So I want them to have a creature in play that I get to Vanishing Verse in response to the Kaya ability. So like if I just Meathook Massacred the creature away there, I think I was going to be very far behind. Alright, we got a 2-3 that can punch the Kaya and stop it from down-ticking. We can uptick Sorin. Okay, we might be losing the mid-range mirror here, which is surprising, considering game 1 we had Disdainful Strokes in the entire game, and the opponent never played anything that was targetable. Okay, Jwari Disruption is very bad. Celestus is also very bad. My life total is very bad. Alright. They double block. So nothing on board. We can hope they try to jam another 5-drop, but I don't think they have that many more 5-drops possibly left in their deck. Maybe I can hope they hit a land drop and then play something that I can Jwari Disruption? I wonder if I should have turned it tonight with Celestus. I probably should have. That was probably better than representing something here. Looks like Graveyard Trespasser, most likely. Wedding announcement. Okay. I gotta imagine then that their plan would be to Kaya the Sorin. Huh. Okay. That's surprising to me. Alright. I would like more cards, I think. Land is cool. Activate Celestus. Gain some life. Take action. Edgar's reasonable? Kaya can downtick on Edgar, which I don't love. I could actually plan to play Edgar. No, I can't play Edgar and play a Path of Peril that kills Edgar next turn. That doesn't work. I kind of want to play Edgar and kill Edgar, but I don't know that I can pull that off. I don't think that I can afford to not play Edgar, though. And playing Edgar means that top decking another Edgar or an Iymrith would be good. Also, the game seems to be having some issues. Oh, yep, that's a crash. Alright, let's try this again. Alright. And is the client stable? My profile icon has certainly changed. Draw a card. Okay. Well, I see that the board state has developed poorly in the last couple of seconds. Oh. Okay. Could board wipe and then Sorin downtick. That's probably bad. So we're gonna uptick instead. Meathook Massacre? Alright. That could be worse. Meathook for 4. Do I want to make these land drops? Or do I need to loot them away with Celestus? I think I probably want to make these land drops. It's close, though. It's actually legitimately close. Alright. Path of Peril being gone is a problem. There goes my plan to clear up all the tokens that were going to threaten Sorin this turn. And admittedly, this would be a good spot to find a Leer. Our other Meathook is gone, so the one thing we could draw here is Path of Peril. Opponent plays Meathook. Upticks on Silverquill Silencer. Hall's not helpful, and Festivity is an Anthem. So I could downtick Sorin. Let's loot first. So I can Bloodchief's Thirst, the Silverquill Silencer, be taking 6, 8, 10 damage. Sorin isn't coming back as a creature, so that isn't pumping the vampires. If I uptick Sorin and hit any creature that's relevant, I go to 8, block, and die. Well, no, I could hit a 4-drop creature. Yeah, I suppose upticking Sorin and hitting Edgar is probably like the only viable thing. You're not viable, right? I still take 8, go to 7. 5 is 1 mana too many. So amusingly, if I'd upticked Sorin and then looted with Celestus, I would have been able to play the Lolth and not been dead. Well, let's see if the opponent misplays. Somehow. There is possibly some combination of attacks at Planeswalkers that leaves me not dead here. I don't think attacking everything in my face leaves me with any way to stay alive, though. Gosh. I got completely destroyed by a single Kaya, completely invalidating me, huh? Yowzas. What does that mean? I guess that I'm slightly more interested in Iymrith now? Maybe? Maybe not so interested in Parasitic Grasp if their post-board plan is heavier on other stuff. Disdainful Stroke is almost interesting, but I don't really think I have anything I can reasonably cut for it. Alright, let's ship this and see how it works. Yeah, maybe I'm supposed to be playing like 1 or 2 Disdainful Stroke. I don't know. Alright, let's give this a keep. See what happens. I think I'm playing Jwari Disruption as my land on turn 2, probably, but if I draw an untap land, maybe I just want to hold it up. No, I think I want to play it. Given that I've got an Iymrith, I think it's the last thing I want to get to rest. Oh, opponent on no turn 2 play. That's a good sign. So they could still Spellbinder us, and that hitting the Iymrith would be annoying. Acquisitions expert. Okay, well, given that the opponent didn't have a turn 2 play earlier, and that's probably the top deck, I think that makes me pretty comfortable discarding Bloodchief's Thirst here, and I just wind up Parasitic Grasping the expert. This... what is that supposed to imply? I feel like Acquisitions Expert means something about some kind of synergy that I don't know what to make of. Alright, so we got good 5-drops. We just need to hit one more land and we're in decent shape. Wedding Announcement is an engine. Okay, Sorin is a card. No complaints. Uptick Sorin, try to hit land drops. Hit land drop. Stellar. Are we sad we threw away the 1-drop earlier? Probably not still. If we were going to grasp the expert, doing it in response to the trigger means no discard. Oh! Right, because then they don't have any creatures in play. I wasn't even thinking of it as functioning like that, but you're right. That is a very significant upgrade. So we can't exile the Edgar with Vanishing Verse, which is unfortunately part of why Edgar is good. Downtick Sorin. I'm not sure whether I would rather play Iymrith here or Lolth. both kind of neat. Probably the Iymrith. I think it's a lot harder for them to kill and a lot easier to make blocks with. Probably. I feel kind of good about this spot because I think we're going to get to put enough Planeswalkers on board that our opponent's going to have a tough time. They can do something like play Kaya and downtick on our Sorin, and I will be sad, but that wouldn't be the end of the world. And at some point, we can throw an Iymrith at our opponent's face and draw cards. Maybe. Who's to say? Skyclave Apparition exiles Sorin. Yeah, don't love that. My opponent's stuff gets pumped. I don't love that. Edgar can attack into Iymrith. I have the ability to Vanishing Verse the Wedding Festivity if I wanted to do that, so that the Edgar just dies into the Iymrith. If I play Lolth and downtick, what happens? One attacker gets through and kills the Lolth. That's not really acceptable. Yeah, I wouldn't be that sad if they played a Kaya and downticked. Wouldn't be that sad. But I'd be a little more sad than if they did nothing. Am I supposed to attack with the Iymrith and make it vulnerable? I don't think that's true, even if it does draw a card. I think I'm supposed to give the opponent the opportunity to suicide their Edgar into it here, not knowing that I'm planning to kill the Wedding Festivity. The Seer Step Pathway, I think, at this point, is probably just for the Tibble, if I had to guess. Seems to be the case. There goes the Edgar. We'll get rid of the Festivity. You block. Edgar will die. They could Meathook Massacre for 1 here, I suppose. It's not great for me. It's not bad for me necessarily either, because then I just kill the Skyclave Apparition and play the Lolth. They play the Lolth. Okay. That, I think Soul Shatter should handle cleanly. It does leave them with a lot of stuff on board, though, I guess. Makes it kind of hard for me to Lolth, but makes it pretty easy for me to Memory Deluge. Okay. None of that is lands. All of that is good. Vanishing Verse hits Skyclave Apparition, which gives me quite a board. I could just take Memory Deluge and Edgar and have infinity stuff to do. I probably don't need to take the Edgar. I guess I take Vanishing Verse and Memory Deluge then? I'm not willing to swing with Iymrith, I don't think. Too much risk that it opens the way for them to play a Kaya. Did a full uninstall plus clean install. Let's see if I can log in. Good luck. Hope it works. Acquisitions Expert. Spirit, Spider, Vampire, Human. Alright, we've learned from earlier mistakes. I would like Rogue to die before this ability resolves. Oh, you can teach an old Magic player new tricks. Path of Peril, clearing out all the tokens except for Skyclave Apparition, but I probably want to do that later, after Edgar's stuff. So let's just try to hit some land drops for now. We succeed. We're going to take a land drop in Memory Deluge, because I would love, just absolutely love, to keep hitting my land drops. Do I hold up Vanishing Verse? Or do I just Path... No, I don't want a Path of Peril now. Alright. Still no nothing, then. Don't think you're very old, though. No, not by most senses of old. Valkmira. Alright, that's cute. That probably would have been very scary if they had played Redain at any earlier point than this. I would like that to go away. Okay. And continuing this trend... Do I just want a Memory Deluge on my opponent's turn to continue drawing infinity cards? Should I Path of Peril now? It's probably a good idea to Path of Peril now. Okay, I think here's the plan, now that we have this much mana. Swing with a 2-3. Opponent double blocks. Very well. Path of Peril and then Lolth. Think the mana here makes this tempo just worth it. Oh, Sorin doesn't exile in return, so it can attack immediately, huh? I should have read that more closely. Luminarch, pumping the Edgar, but we can chump block the Edgar. Henrika. Oh. Interesting. Should have Lolth before the attack, you would have one more loyalty. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I wasn't actually expecting them to block, but given that my plays were kind of scripted, it was just better to do. Henrika is sort of an issue. Suppose I could kill the Henrika. Kind of solves that issue. Alright, let's Memory Deluge and see what else we hit. Guess I'm playing some lands for the next few turns. Could also kill the Edgar. Probably not a great... Well, how big does this get? Pretty big. Should I just be willing to sack the Lolth? I think I'm just willing to sack the Lolth, which I think means I'm now at long last actually attacking with this Iymrith. Maybe? Maybe not? I do draw a lot of cards if I attack with the Iymrith. Alright, play an attack with the Iymrith, draw 2 cards. Path of Peril's nifty. Yep. One less loyalty with Lolth. A pretty significant drawback here. Sorin. Oh, but they didn't actually do anything about the Iymrith? Radical. Alright, well, we're going to Path of Peril to take out everything that can block the Iymrith here, so I might as well just block with this 2-1. Oh, and I get to Memory Deluge now? I feel like these Memory Deluges have been pretty good in this spot. And what do you know? That means it's the blue cards that are winning us this mirror. Game's working? Oh, stellar to hear. Stellar, stellar, stellar. Memory Deluge. We take an Edgar. We take a Memory Deluge. Play a land. Play an Edgar. Go to combat. Swing at opponent's face. Their Edgar's bigger, so mine gets to chump block their Edgar, which amusingly is somehow actually a good thing for me. Pass the turn, because I don't really need to kill the Skyclave Apparition if I can Memory Deluge instead. Spellbinder. Could take a Memory Deluge if they wanted to. Just makes the Memory Deluge better. Not entirely. I mean, I've got a bunch of 7-mana Memory Deluges. Having a 6-mana Memory Deluge isn't really, like, an upgrade currently. Yeah, making Bloodchief's Thirst cost more. Probably better. Oh, 9 minutes left. Alright, gotta play quickly. Yes, I am willing to chump block in the interest of getting my Edgar flipped. A Coffin is a little more interesting than the man at the moment. Cast a Memory Deluge. Take a Vanish. Oh, we're done. It's nice to have blue cards in your deck. Okie dokie. Well, let's keep trying. Is this Esper control or Esper midrange? I guess it toes the line. It plays Disdainful Stroke. I don't know. But yeah, I agree that it is probably closer to midrange than control technically. But trying to define where to draw the line is sort of tough. We're still playing 4 Memory Deluges. That's not like... We're not white-black midrange. I'm still gonna fight that description. I should have led on Deserted Beach so that I could play Clearwater Pathway on black, still have double black up, but also be able to play a Jwari Disruption if we happen to top deck that. Thankfully, having drawn Shattered Sanctum, doesn't really matter. But, yeah. Should have led on Deserted Beach. Because playing Clearwater Pathway on blue and denying myself access to potential double black was actually a mistake. I guess I'm still not representing Jwari Disruption, so potentially the opponent plays a 2-drop here that they might not play otherwise if I was representing blue. Slowly turning into, not that we're already there. I don't think you'll convince me to cut Memory Deluge or Disdainful Stroke. That's probably not happening. Unfortunately, I don't think I have the ability to kill an Izzet player, so I'm probably going to die here. Lots of mill. Yep. I need to top deck a 4-drop threat. We top decked a 4-drop threat. That's a start. Alright, 5-turn clock. Let's go. So, every counterspell I have is useless in this matchup. That said, I still don't know if I buy that this deck actually has a super functional anti-aggro game plan. And this is certainly a very curious implementation if it's playing You Find Some Prisoners. I guess the logic is supposed to be that this is technically a mill card if it hits 3 of my library. Alright, good news is I play a lot of expensive cards, so the Tasha City's Laughters don't hurt for as much. The bad news is I still don't have any counterspells or threats that interact with this, so I'm still in a lot of trouble. Hey, threats! Disdainful Stroke should do basically nothing against their deck. I think I just take the 2 threats. Alright, Charmed Groom, attack. Iymrith, played. Well, opponent, I got you on a 2-turn clock, which Bloodthirsty Adversary flashing back Tasha City's Laughter. Alright, that's a combo. Huh. This is a very interesting version of this list. Alright, deck, give me a bunch of expensive stuff. 10 cards remaining. And Bloodthirsty Adversary actually gets to block, well, would get to block if I didn't have a removal spell for it. Oh, I was super supposed to play Lolth last turn and not Iymrith. I can't attack with Iymrith here and risk that I draw a card with it. Oh no, by taking Iymrith with Memory Deluge, I also didn't put a super expensive card at the bottom of my deck with Memory Deluge? Am I going to get put to 1 card and win because I didn't attack with Iymrith? Wow, I won the game because I thought I had enough to not attack with that Iymrith. I'll take it. Not leaving up removal for Adversary also stunk. I don't think removing Adversary accomplishes anything, right? Casually winning with 0 cards in library, with a draw the card trigger on the stack. You'll love to see it. Yeah, if you remove Adversary, I don't believe it stops it. I believe it's all 1 trigger? Yes. Because this whole thing is 1 line of text with no line breaks, the You May Pay ability is an ETB that immediately does this other stuff. It's not what's referred to as a reflexive trigger, which would require the... No, a reflexive trigger wouldn't require. It's not like Exploit, where the permanent still has to be on the battlefield for the trigger resolving to do anything further. So we're definitely playing Go Blank, and definitely playing the cards that do damage, and definitely playing the cards that do damage. And I guess I'm keeping the Bloodchief's Thirsts, and cutting the Disdainful Strokes, and cutting the Path of Perils, and cutting the Meathook Massacres, and bringing in Infernal Grasps. Oh, no, wait, I still need to kill crabs. Okay, having as many removal spells as possible, kill crabs as efficiently as possible is relevant. Which means Soul Shatter is probably worse than Parasitic Grasp and Infernal Grasp and Vanishing Verse and Bloodchief's Thirst. Do I have anything over here that's actually worth turning into Parasitic Grasp? Probably not. I think I need every threat I can get, and also having expensive cards is kind of a good thing. Oh, does that mean... Yeah, Does that mean I should have had Parasitic Grasp be the 3 mana version instead? I think it does. Technically, they can protect their crab with a adversary against Soul Shatter, but I doubt that's going to be relevant. Probably shouldn't have kept this hand, come to think of it. Fun fact, adversary is in fact a reflexive trigger, but not the part we're interested in. Right, yeah. Reflexive actually means something else. Hey, the Bloodchief's Thirst is going to be super excellent here. A reflexive trigger is any trigger that, during its resolution, creates another trigger that goes on the stack and does something else. It does not mean something that is tied to the permanent that created the trigger being on board to make the reflexive trigger do something. That's just a subset of reflexive triggers care about that. It does mean nothing we're interested in. it didn't mean what I was trying to use the word to describe. But it means a different part of how the card works, I guess is what I mean to say. For some reason I thought I had a Sorin in hand, but I don't. I have a Memory Deluge, which is worse. If it said, put that many +1/+1 counters on bloody adversaries when you do. Yes, when you do would be a reflexive trigger, because that would be something that would cause the trigger to make another trigger. But no, all part of one trigger. I could actually take the Celestus here and try to get out Hullbreaker Horror faster and not take the Lolth. The problem with playing the Hullbreaker Horror and trying to get it out faster is that I've got all these Vanishing Verses that I'm not going to be able to use to bounce stuff with Hullbreaker Horror unless Lolth is in play. I don't think I want Celestus, because I don't think I want to be drawing and discarding. I guess I can just refuse, huh? I'm allowed to do that? Oh, unaborted encounter spells. I actually didn't see that coming. But I'll take it, because that's one less card in their hand that actually is threatening to mill me. My library is still pretty good. So the thing we're scared about is the opponent setting up for a big Galvanic iteration into like triple Tasha's Hideous Laughter turn. But we have an easier time against that if we have Hullbreaker on board at some point. Bloodthirsty Adversary, sure. Getting back Expressive Iteration, sure. So the Expressive Iteration, I'm going to Vanishing Verse this adversary rather than Parasitic Grasp it, because Parasitic Grasp I can cast on my Hullbreaker Horror to bounce something and not kill my Hullbreaker Horror, and that is a lot more valuable to me. Field of Ruin, okay. Boop. You find some prisoners. I guess I could Jwari Disruption that. Do I want to? No, not really. So they take a Memory Deluge and put a Memory Deluge in my yard. I guess that's bad for me? No, I mean, even having Memory Deluge in my yard with Hullbreaker Horror is actually kind of nice. Alright, we play Hullbreaker Horror. What does the opponent have to say about that? If they'd hit like a Vanishing Verse or something, I would have a problem here, I suppose. I wonder if that actually informed, like, was I not supposed to play Vanishing Verse as a result? That is a reason why Parasitic Grasp, I suppose, might be better than Soul Shatter. To consider it was from their deck. Oh, right. Everything they got off the Memory Deluge at this point is from their deck, not mine. Okay, Hullbreaker Horror, no die? No die! Hullbreaker Horror, not die! Yay! Hideous Laughter is a sorcery. So they can't go off at the end of their turn in response to a Memory Deluge. Galvanic Iteration, yup. Maddening Cacophony kicked. So they mill 75% of my library. I think I would prefer them to only mill 50% of my library. I could bounce both of these, I guess. If I just want a Jwari Disruption and Parasitic Grasp. It puts the Maddening Cacophony back in their hand. But I guess I don't care about that. Like, if they go for another kicked Maddening Cacophony next turn, I just bounce with Memory Deluge. And it's not like kicking Maddening Cacophony threatens to kill me. And I got enough cards in library that I don't think one... I mean, they could draw Hideous Laughter, Galvanic, and then have another Galvanic, and triple Hideous Laughter me, and that might kill me from here, but if I bounce this Maddening Cacophony and don't let it resolve, I think it's still pretty hard for the opponent to kill me there.